I'll call to order the
Recording
Tuesday,
in progress.
October 24th, 2023 Town Council Committee of the Whole to order at 6:31. All councilors are present with the exception of Councilor Parker. Calendar and Communications, Councilor Gajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I heard from multiple constituents in the past 2 weeks regarding parking in downtown Mystic, looking to see what solutions. I had a conversation with the town manager, and he has informed me that he is working on the progress, and I look forward to seeing how that is. I also heard from another constituent regarding short-term rentals, and I notified them after consulting with the town manager again on that it is in Planning and Zoning Commission, and we are waiting for that. Interesting to see what Planning and Zoning Commission produces. I also heard from a constituent regarding a pothole on the road. Thank you to town manager and Public Works for fixing that. And then on October 14th, I attended and volunteered at the Greater Mystic Chamber of Commerce 50th anniversary for Mystic Aquarium and the Chili Cook-Off. It was wonderful to see many residents down there. And then also on October 14th, I attended the Senior Center Chili Cook-Off. It was, again, great to see many constituents and community members there as well. And then on October 19th, I attended the MLK Trust Fund Scholarship Dinner. It was an incredibly well-organized and awesome event. It was great to hear from the scholarship winners, and our future is bright in southeastern Connecticut. And then October 22nd, I attended the annual Safe Futures Walk in Waterford and participated on the team of my good friend, Councilor Parkers.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I also had multiple conversations with residents within the community over the past 2 weeks. I have been in conversations, is this working? Oh, I've been in conversations with Mr. Bird to deal with some issues on Lambtown Road that I was made aware of, and he's been working on that, as well as a resident who had some fuel assistant needs, and Mr. Burt has worked on that with TVCCA as well as Groton Social Services. I also attended the Chili Cook-Off at the Senior Center, as well as the Chili Cook-Off with the Mystic Chamber of Commerce celebrating the 50 years of the Mystic Aquarium. I attended the Martin Luther King Scholarship Dinner, which was fabulous. And I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received numerous emails and conversations from different people. I also attended the same three events, the Chili Cook-Off at Thrive 55, which was extremely well attended by our residents, and it was a lot of fun. The MLK dinner and the Safe Futures Walk. Okay.
Thank you. Councilor McBride.
Thank you. First off, I want to congratulate the Fitch football team for the last 2 wins that they've had. They were very exciting games. The one against Santa Fe was tremendous comeback, and I just wanted to congratulate them and wish them well and their upcoming game against Hill House this Friday. I can't wait to see another victory. Also attended the CCM Legislative Committee on the 12th, where the CCM recommendations to the legislature were discussed. A vast amount of the detail. Would encourage everyone to watch over it. A couple high-level things I'd like to make everyone aware of is they're looking to increase the tax abatements for affordable housing, continued pursuit of mass transit routes, including a stop in Groton, increased funding for special education, increased percentage of the Mohegan Pequot Fund distribution to municipalities, and there's many other topics. So I'd like, be great to everybody to review that. I also attended Senator Blumenthal's update in Norwich and heard about the upcoming events and efforts that he has plans for the region. Attended as a member of the Bottle Bill Advisory Committee on the 16th and gathered information as a member and find out what's going on with the bottle bill tax bill, specifically with regards to how to properly utilize those funds. And there is some discussions about potential audits of those funds to make sure the funds are being used properly. I also received several emails, as all the councilors do, and responded to those and met with individuals as appropriate. I also attended the cook-off, the one at Thrive 55, and that was a tremendous event, had a lot of fun. Also received a few texts and emails, phone calls regarding the property reuse meeting, and whether it's true or not, I'm not sure, but I did receive from numerous people, they were not pleased that they didn't feel that the event was properly communicated, so people in the community could attend that event. the next event, I believe it's coming up in November, for those people who were interested. And the specific concerns they had was related to why two of the properties are being treated differently than the SB Butler property. So I just wanted to make people aware because I did receive numerous communications on that. But other than that, just out and about town and speaking to residents, so thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. I too have been speaking with lots of residents over the last several weeks. A lot of communications about the proper reuse committee. Some of the communications that Councilor McBride had stated regarding the TOPE newly established, they felt there was not enough communication and outreach or interest put forward regarding that. So that was one concern. People speaking about speeding. One of the other things I said I was going to bring up, someone had brought up the fact that they were thankful for the AED machines being rolled out and put into places where they were not located at the time. One of the other things, and I will bring it to John, the town manager, is maybe putting an AED machine down where the police headquarters is in the restroom station. If you look at surrounding tourist towns like Chatham and Cape Cod, they have an information center with a restroom, and they also have an AED machine located that's accessible to the community. So just a thought on our side about putting one in a public place, and I think it's a phenomenal idea, and I've been getting a great response in regards to community safety on that. I too attended the Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Award. I have been attending. Sometimes I miss, but been attending since probably in the early 90s when a few of my fellow classmates have received the award. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be a part of it and watch the students. And it's great when you know a few of them from across municipalities, from unified sports like fencing and things like that. So congratulations to not only the Groton recipients, but to all of the MLK scholarships. What else do I have? I did attend the Mystics Aquarium's 50th anniversary. I was not a volunteer as we had a marching band competition event, but I did attend the fireworks in that evening. We got back and got to partake in some of those. So thank you to the Chamber for putting it on, and I think it was nicely attended and a great honor for the aquarium. Some conversation about the NIPS allocations. Let's see, concerns about ARPA funding allocations. What other things did I have? I think that's pretty much it for now. Again, communications about, I want to remind to the community that November 7th, we have an election. Polls open up at 6, close at 8 p.m. And for the city residents, which I am one, you'll have a chance to also vote at the same time for your town council, city council at the city. If you're not aware of where you need to vote or polling stations, please reach out, and the city clerk or town staff can direct you. And I think it's really important. If you're not registered, there are ways that you can still register. Any questions, needing any information regarding the election, it's very important. And my question is to the town manager, are they putting anything up on the town websites or anything regarding voting in the city and the change this year?
I was just taking a look. I'm aware.
Yeah, because a lot of folks seem to not be aware of that, mainly on the city side. And part of it is making sure education is out there and voter access, and making sure people's right to vote is not suppressed in a way. Knowledge is power, and it needs to, we need more information. Thank you.
Counselor Westervelt?
Thank you very much. I too received many emails and phone calls and other communications regarding a number of different things, including, as I got in touch with the town manager, a sinkhole on River Road. So I appreciate you getting together with DPW on that. I also heard, comments and questions about how the property reuse committee and how the TOPE thing happened this week. People were it took some people by surprise, which I can understand that. Additionally, I also attended the 50th anniversary for the Mystic Aquarium. That was a good time. It was a lot of fun. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Jacome?
Thank you, Mayor. Similar communications with emails. I did attend the RTM meeting. I am attending the Citizens Police Academy. We had the Town Council Personnel Appointments meeting, held a meeting last Tuesday. I also attended the Community Speaks Out monthly meeting, the Martin Luther King Scholarship Dinner, and then the Grind Rocks Recovery event that was at the Elks. So, thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. I had the pleasure of speaking at the Grosso Tech National Honor Society induction ceremony. It was the second year in a row that they invited me to do so. It was an honor and a privilege. I also got to briefly, before and after, meet all the new inductees. And, similar to last year, just a very impressive group of young adults. And I look forward to seeing them in the future. I got to see a lot of last year's inductees this year again, so just good luck to them going forward, and on everything you do. And I think that's all I have. So with that,
I had one question.
we'll- question.
Sure. I had some questions. Folks had asked me regarding the first Tuesday of the month's meeting. Is that moved to Monday or Wednesday, or do we know? And
Yeah,
did I find out?
it's on the,
Yeah, it's on the 7th.
Yeah.
Or 6th.
it's on the
Perfect.
6th, it's on the Monday.
Thank you.
Yep. On to the approval of minutes. I'll make a motion to move the September 26, 2023 minutes and October 3rd, 2023 special meeting minutes. So moved.
Second, Bordelon?
Moved by Melendez, second by Bordelon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. On to new business. We have the miniature liquor bottle tax allocation, and just to remind everyone, there is a motion on the floor. I believe everyone has it in front of them. It was made on July 11th by Councilor Franco, second by Councilor Parker. I'll read it. It says to allocate 15% of the 2023 NIP funds received to the city of Groton, then split the remaining funds 50-50, with 50% to Parks and Recreation solar compactors and composite trash barrels, and the remaining 50% to Public Works to use towards mini trash vacuum vehicle. All right. Any discussion?
Just
Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess to the town manager, or Mr. Berry, who's here, I understand now the solar compactors are in and are working, or?
Yeah, matter of fact, I see Greg Hanover's on here too.
Very cool.
It was Public Works that installed those. Oh, wait, am I here? But yes, those were installed in downtown Mystic in 3 locations. They've been working fantastic. Much less emptying of the containers. And eventually we'd like to add more, and also you can add a Wi-Fi component that'll actually alert you when it's time to empty them, so that's an eventual goal.
So they're working as they were intended or designed?
Yes.
to- Okay, and everybody's happy? Was it
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of
very
work to put it in, or?
Greg, anything to the contrary? I believe all indication is that those compactors are working well. Is that the case?
Yes, they took about 2 days to put the 3 of them in, and they're working extremely well.
Okay. All right. Great, that's great. I mean, that was one of the reasons we postponed this to now, was waiting for those to come in, so
Yeah,
that's
I've
great.
been very pleased.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilor McBride?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. In reviewing the motion, I guess my first question is procedurally, is it allowed, since we received it today, to be in this package? Is that okay because it's a committee meeting? Is that how it works? If it's a council meeting, we couldn't. right?
Motions anytime anyways. The topic was in there, so it doesn't matter, no.
Okay, thank you. So now the question, now I have some comments on the motion. Excuse me, my first question is the 2023. Does that refer to calendar year 23 or fiscal year 23? We're not clarifying that. And then 2023, does that mean funds that we received in 2023? Or does it mean funds that are derived from 2023 NIP sales that could be received in '24? And the reason I'm asking, because the 2023 figure of 46,000 reflects the period from April 1st to 9/30. So depending upon those answers, it would make a difference, in my opinion, to whether or not I would vote in favor of this. And I just first off want to say I'm in favor of funds going to Groton City, Parks and Rec, and Public Works, but I have concerns over the appropriation and manner this is approved, because I cannot support appropriating money that we do not have. And I've brought this up to numerous times. I don't think it's right nor proper. I would be in favor of making a motion if others are interested in the 46,000. But I don't see how we can appropriate funds on 2023. We don't even know what 2023 means. So I think we need more clarity, at the very least, in terms of what 2023 means. I'd also like to think we should consider, if we're going to consider other amounts beyond the 46,000, we should consider amounts going to the Groton Conservation Advocates and the Conservation Commission, as they put in submittals as well. So I think I'll defer to other counselors for their discussion as well, but I can't support anything beyond the 46,000 at this point for the numerous reasons I presented. Thank you.
Just to mention, typically it's up to the person making the motion on what their intent is with like the 2,000. But in the past, I believe we usually are referring to what's actually received in that calendar year. That's the typical.
Okay.
Because it gets confusing otherwise, so.
Right.
I just have a point of information.
Councilor Bordelon?
I have a point of information. Can the motion be clarified before I make my comments? Because that does make a big difference on what I would say. So if someone could just, whoever put the motion forward, if they can just clarify what Councilor McBride had stated, as
Well,
far as what year. or-
Okay, it is the dollars that we receive in 2023. If the person who made the motion wanted it to be different, then they could speak now. If not, it's not really necessary. That's how we usually always do it. So, that was the intent that I got. So that's what we're going with. Any further discussion? Councilor Gajewski?
Manager Burton, just a quick question. Is there an expected payment, additional payment that could be coming in, or is?
I would expect one any time now.
Okay.
Yes, probably of a similar amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Jacome?
Thank you, Mayor. To Director Hanover, just a quick question. Can you briefly speak on the Wi-Fi capabilities and how that would help you and benefit you?
Sure. The units we got are wired that we can, get an app for our phones, for the staff to have phones so they can tell when units are full. We didn't get that option at this time, but they are wired for that. It's a little bit more money to get that, but we're going to, this was really a pilot program, so we want to see how this works before we really roll out the whole program.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that these solar-powered trash compactors are in and working successfully. I want to thank my fellow councilors who also supported the initiative and idea, one that I had put forward a while back. It didn't move, and it is definitely an asset. When looking at surrounding towns and states like Chatham, Cape Cod, and even in Westerly, as I brought up my example, was the solar compactors in downtown Westerly. It's much more convenient, much more environmentally friendly, and does provide a proper way for people in the area to dispose of items in a recycling and a trash scenario. I think that's important. At the time, it was stated that the NIP funds, when it originally came forward, folks said, well, no, it's not going to be used for that, or they didn't want it for that because they felt it should be for alcohol and kind of more of that frame, the trash that was related to that. In fact, I feel that these are proper things to use the money for, and I'm happy to see the pilot going. So I just want to thank Mr. Hanover for his efforts and time. I've gone out and looked at them. They look wonderful, and it definitely, I think we're going to see the benefit tenfold on those. As far as allocating money that we haven't received, I do caution the council with that as well. The money has not hit the coffers yet, so we should only allocate what we have, and move forward with that. So I guess the question is to the town manager, what is the exact number that we've currently received for NIPS that's left?
Well, we have the 46,000.
And based on this motion, what would this be stating, just to clarify?
Well, it can be altered any way the council wants. As it is, whatever you get, you would take the 46,000 plus whatever the second payment is, which I would presume would be in the ballpark of that.
And so 15% would go to the city of whatever the number comes in,
Right.
and then 50-50 split between park recreation, solar compactors.
What I would anticipate is, we would, let's say the resolution passed, and then it also has to go through the RTM. But then we'd make payments out and divvy up what we have in hand. Then once the rest of it's in hand, we would do the same.
Can Mr. Hanover speak to this vacuum vehicle, perhaps?
Sure. This is, we got actually some pricing in from a manufacturer recently. It's a little tractor, if you will, that goes around with a sucker. And you drive it right along a sidewalk or the edge of a road and suck everything up as you're going along. The base price for one with a diesel motor is about $65,000, and they go all the way up to a fully loaded electric powered one. It's about $150,000. So we would be having to put money aside as we go along before we could purchase one.
Okay. Because for me, I think it'd be more effective. I mean, we didn't even have compactors before, definitely not a vacuum. So to roll out the trash compactors and recycle bins seem more effective, and then kind of think about the trash vehicle vacuum on a separate. I'd hate to have funds just sitting there kind of moving towards, because every year that item does go up. So I'm just I'm unsure about how to support the full motion, but most of it I'm in support of. I do think, the 15% to the city and the 50-50, but the other part, I'm a little unsure. Thank you.
And your 2 turns.
I have 2 turns. I did a point of information that took you, that was it.
Councilor McBride?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, because I may have came off that I wasn't in favor of these projects, and I am in favor of these projects. I just want to make that clear. I'm just not in favor of the appropriation of the money that hasn't been received. I don't think it's proper. Thank you.
Thank
Point of
you.
information
Councilor Bordelon?
to the town manager. I only took 1 turn, and the other one was a point of information. Was that correct?
Councilor Bordelon?
I didn't even speak. I didn't have my proper turn. I'm just asking for fairness and equal opportunity up here.
We get 2 turns to speak. If you want a 3rd turn to speak, the council can elect to give you that 3rd turn.
A point of information is never counted as a turn for full clarity.
Other councilors ask 1 question, and it counts as a turn for everybody else. That's just how it works. That's just how it works.
I asked a clarifying question so I could gather my thoughts. And I asked to be just treated fairly is all. It was not a full turn.
Councilor Jacome asked a simple question.
It's fine.
It counted as 1 turn
I respect
for him.
your stance,
Councilor
even though I may
Gajewski
disagree.
asked a simple question. It counted as 1 turn for him. You asked a simple question. It counted as 1 turn for you. I treat everyone the same.
Point of informations are not considered a turn under normal rules.
Councilor Franco?
Thank you. I brought this forward because I thought it would be fair to the city to give them 15% of the NIP funding that came in, due to the fact that out of the, all the package stores that are listed in Groton, 3 of them are located in the city, and that would give them a percentage. The remaining funds split 50-50 to the Parks and Rec for their trash barrels and the compactors, as well as the other 50% going towards the mini trash vacuum vehicle, were because those 2 departments also requested part of the money. So if the funding went to them, and just say it's not enough money to purchase a trash vacuum vehicle, in the next round next year, it could be decided to finish funding that vehicle. it has been discussed here before that sometimes when we get these funds, there might be allocations of them that might take years to be able to purchase some things that we may need. I think the compactors are wonderful additions to our community. I think putting them in places that they will be highly utilized, that were chosen by the departments, is wise to listen to them as to where to put them. And these things would hopefully help pick up some of the trash within our community that we've heard so many people complain about, especially in our parks. So I hope we can get full support on this. And in regards to spending money we don't have, we are expected to have money coming in, and this is not something that is new to this council. We have done this in the previous year, and we have done it for other items, knowing that there's money coming in and allocating it to the appropriate departments for the requests that they've made. So I thank you, and I hope that this might pass with a unanimous vote for what's on the floor. Thank you.
I'd like to create another motion.
Sure.
I will keep everything the same. I'll just remove towards the mini trash vacuum. So everything but the mini trash vacuum, basically.
Okay, but are you making it 100% to Parks and Rec then?
Basically 15 to the city and
85.
the remaining to the trash, everything would go back to the trash compactors.
Is there a second? I don't have a second. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Right, excuse me, McBride abstains.
Okay.
Westervelt abstains.
Okay. So it's 2. 6 in favor.
I'm abstaining as well.
That's 3. 5 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 abstaining. Westervelt, Bordelon, McBride. That passes. On to the CIP funding deficits. We have Director Barry here. Welcome.
Good evening, Mark Berry, Director of Parks and Recreation, here to update the council on a couple of projects that were previously funded. Specifically, these are, the goal of these two projects was to increase accessibility at the Par 4 restaurant and also at Calvin Burrows. We have been, the Parks and Recreation Department has been working with Public Works over the years to take steps to increase accessibility. It's in our parks, in our recreation facilities. Public Works has been kind of leading these two projects. Both projects went out to bid. Both projects were, the proposals that came in were considerably higher. And in order to complete these two projects, we need an additional $400,000. And I know Greg is on the line to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you. Councilor
And I'd
McBride.
just like to say we do, that there are funds in the capital projects fund balance to use towards these. And I do encourage the council to move forward because it will only get more expensive likely.
Okay. Councilor McBride.
That was going to be my question, was where the funds are coming from.
Yeah.
Town Manager Burt, do you have a snapshot of what funds are available, like how much, just so we know how
Yeah.
much we're drawing down?
And I'm also, when I looked at it, I was also looking just because I figured you'd want the information for the Sutton Park discussion. Typically, our capital projects fund has been usually right around $1 million since I've been here. Well, it's up to 2.2 now. We've just from projects that came in under before and closed out. So those funds are sitting there for capital projects. So we have about 2.2 million minus the 40,500 that was just approved for the Groton sale. So just a little under 2.2 million. And then I also checked with Director Hanover on Sutton Park or on these. There's 135,000 in a LoCIP, the local capital improvement program dollars available also. So total about slightly under 2.3 million available there. And now going into what I think, I'd rather not get below a 500,000 fund balance. And I also think we'll need money for a police locker room. It came in drastically overbid. We're taking some things out and rebidding, but I still expect it to be high. So I would recommend keeping 700,000 in there at least. So saying all that, available for, if you did, so I put aside 200,000, penciled in 200,000 police locker room, 400,000 for this, maintaining a $500,000 balance, that would take 1.1 million of that, well, leaving that 500,000 as part of it. So we've got the 400,000 here, and that would leave slightly under 1.2 million if you wanted to do any changes with Sutton Park. So this could be easily accommodated with the capital project funds.
Thank you for that. Can you just, I may have not gotten great notes, 400,000 for this, you've allocated 200 for the police.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be less than that, but I don't, how
Just
things
rough
are coming
estimates.
in.
No,
Yeah.
I get it. I'm just trying to get back to the
Yeah,
1.2.
and then
you said.
500,000 fund balance, maintaining that, just in case of anything,
Gotcha, okay.
So that's 1.1 million right there out of the 2.294 that's out there. So that would leave available for anything else besides, as long as you maintain that 500,000, 1,194,500. Like if you wanted to use some of that for Sutton Park.
Okay, thank you. Just another generic question for my own understanding. Do we ever ask Par 4 or any other private facilities that we help finance chip into any of these costs? That I know they're town-owned, but do we ever do a matching program, or do they ever help out with capital improvements?
Well, we're responsible for the capital improvements on the building, so.
I
Yeah.
understand that, because
Yeah.
we own that. I'm just wondering if they ever contribute any, because we do a lot of improvements to the facilities. I'm just wondering if they ever contribute any. Sounds like we do all the capital improvements.
Right.
That's correct.
And part of this is to gain access externally for when. is
Yeah,
that
so,
what-
so right now, there is not an accessible bathroom until Par 4 opens up, which is 11 o'clock. We do put out a handicap portalet, but this would provide
External access, yeah.
accessibility,
In the morning.
right, earlier in the morning, right, rather than just an accessible
And it's in
portalet.
pretty rough shape too, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it was one of the first
Portalets.
things that people talked about when I got here was that restroom there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to recommend a resolution funding an additional $400,000 to complete accessibility projects at Par 4 Restaurant and Calvin Burrows Field. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Gieske. Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Berry. Can you just sort of talk a little bit about what parts of this project where inflation has sort of affected them? Is that what's going on here, that the cost of goods and materials has just gone up, or is it other things?
yeah, I think Mr. Hanover can probably better answer that question because he has seen the bids. But I do know that the architects have looked at the bids and said that those are the numbers that they're seeing on projects right now.
I'm not disputing the numbers, I'm just trying to get
No.
a sense of what parts
Sure.
of that are going up. What are we being affected with? Mr. Hanover, can you answer that?
Sure, it's, it's a combination, obviously there's labor that goes up every year. These estimates are a couple of years old, but really the HVAC equipment has really skyrocketed for whatever reason I'm not sure of, but we're seeing that across a lot of projects. And the consultant engineers and architects I've talked to say it's just, the prices that everybody's seeing nowadays.
Okay. I know we do a lot of different improvements on buildings, town buildings, and so this is going to affect us all over the place. I'm just trying to get a sense of where they're coming from. So, do you have a good feeling, I guess, Mr. Hanover, that this is an adequate amount of money to complete these projects?
Yeah, the money includes a 10% construction contingency above the two bids, or the low bids that we received for these projects. So, it's definitely, unless we find something that's really, going to blow our construction contingency out of the water, it's adequate funding for both projects.
Mayor, can I just add, Greg, you thought they would hold the bids for 60 days, is that right? Around there?
Yeah, we had the contractor for the Par 4 restroom, which we just recently opened. He has agreed to hold his bid until the end of the year, so that we can get through this process.
Which includes RTM, yeah.
Yes. In the Burroughs Field, we actually bid that one back in August, and that one we rejected the bid. So we're in the process, we'll be rebidding that probably in the next week or two.
Okay. So we're comfortable with the numbers and in the timeframes, and our contractors will be able to complete these projects.
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Council Bordelon?
Thank you. Question for the town manager. The money that you spoke of that we also would be coming out of this fund, I thought that the sale, we took it out of ARPA funding. Is that correct?
We did a mixture. We did most like 160-something thousand ARPA. We took 40,500 out of this, the capital projects, and 40,500 out of contingency fund.
Okay. And then there also was some ARPA funded allocated to the restroom part of this Part 4 project as well, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, where's
Greg,
that
can you-
number on
can
here?
you
'Cause I don't see it.
confirm
I don't see it
No,
broken
those-
down in our description.
No, there's no ARPA funds for either project.
So there was no ARPA funds allocated for the restrooms at Part 4? Apparently not.
Correct.
That's correct.
All right, just want to make sure, because all right. And so the bid, obviously because of parts and labor, cost inflation, obviously everything's going up, so that's why the numbers are inflated right now, is what you guys are saying.
That's correct.
Especially for HVAC. Yeah.
And this will also increase our accessibility and access to the restrooms and put us in ADA compliance as well.
That is correct, yes. That was the intent of this project from the beginning.
And this is a restroom on site at the building, not out on the course.
That's correct.
All right, those are my only questions under that. Thank you.
Council Gajewski?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It says in our council packet here that for the restroom restoration, the lowest responsible bid was $551,604. Could you define responsible bid? Was that like good quality according to town staff standards?
Yeah, when we bid these out, it's always the lowest responsible bidder that we award the project to. After we do a, back and look and check their references and make sure that they submitted all the proper paperwork and have all the proper insurance and bonds and all that stuff. And the three lower bidders on this project all came within probably about $20,000 of each other. So that tells me that this number, the 551, is a reasonable number for this project. And all three of those bidders we've worked with in the past, and they're all very reputable contractors. So we feel confident that we can award this to the low bidder at 551.
Okay. Thank you, Director Hanover, for your due diligence. I greatly appreciate it on behalf of the town.
Council Franco?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to disclose that my husband is also a Groton Little League president, but we do not receive any financial benefits from his position in Groton Little League. So I'd like to clarify, Mr. Burt, that this is coming from the CIP fund balance and not the general fund balance.
That is correct. The capital projects fund balance.
Right. And the reason that it is so large now is because previously there were projects that came in under budget.
Correct, and we, every so often we go through and sweep out, if we check which ones are closed and sweep out back into the fund balance. So if these came in under, then the money goes right back into the fund balance of it.
Okay, because typically, when you allocate funds to a CIP project, they have 5 years to complete the project. And sometimes they complete the project, but there's money still remaining in those funds. So to do a sweep is to, we would.
Yes, if it's closed out, there's no reason to keep those funds allocated.
Exactly. So I recall this in the past, and now
Yes.
I want to make sure that maybe some new counselors or people that don't understand how those type of things work may understand, because I don't think this has come up in the past 2 years. And so the bids are coming in over budget, and you're placing a construction contingency, and you think this will be it. And how quickly do you think you'll be able to have these projects completed?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, Burroughs Field would probably be, if we bid it, December, it'd probably be like, by March, April, it'll be completed, and I'm thinking the same with the rest of them, may go a little bit further into May or June, at par 4. A lot of that depends on, the lead time on some of this equipment, some of the HVAC equipment, other things. There's a long lead time on these things.
And we also coordinate with Par 4 and generally the golf course to make sure that to be as least disruptive as we possibly can.
Yes, of course. Well, is there any reason to, we're going to keep a $500,000 in the balance if we spend, as you've anticipated tonight, potentially spending this money. Is the $500,000 balance, is that sufficient?
Yes, with the caveat that, Greg, do you know of any other things to bid out that have HVAC or that could potentially, besides a locker room? The locker room, by the way, we're totally revamping and rebidding, but Greg, do you know of anything else that you have concerns about?
No, because we've got the library cooling tower, we've got the funds for that, contractor's working on that. So no, there's no other projects like that coming up, other than the police locker room.
But I'd like to keep the 500,000 just in case something unknown comes up.
Right, because that's my concern, that what if other things do come up over budget and we have to go into the contingency? Because we have, seems like to me, we've allocated a lot to a lot of projects that have to be completed in the next so many years. And that's what concerns me. But for this, I think out of the 2.2 million, I would absolutely not have a problem allocating the 400,000 to this. And I thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Councilor Jacome?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'll just stay in full support of this. These are some of the most used and populated buildings in our area. The restrooms there and the central locations for those buildings, so I'm in favor of this. The question I will ask is there a contingency on all CIPs? I don't know if I could ask that actually, but if that's possible. That's for the Director Hanover.
Yeah, when we do our cost estimates, we usually put in a contingency.
Thank you.
For our budget purposes.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Okay, so we are going to reverse the order of these next two items because we're waiting for someone to arrive. So we will move to 5D, adoption of 2023 Recreation Master Plan. And we have Director Barry here still.
Yes. We are, or I am here this evening requesting that the council formally adopt the Recreation Master Plan. Just to kind of briefly go over the history of this, this entire project started over a year ago with focus groups, stakeholder meetings, public information sessions. We did a statistically valid survey. All of that information was compiled along with level of service analysis, which is they went out and looked at all the different parks, made an assessment of what they felt like needed to be done, opportunities for improvement. All of that information was compiled, presented to the public and both to the council. We incorporated the feedback from the public and from the council into the draft that was submitted in your packet. And the Parks and Rec Commission has also reviewed this and approved it and have sent a letter to the council, which I believe was in your packet.
Thank you. So I will make a motion to recommend a resolution that the town council adopt the 2023 Recreation Master Plan. So moved.
Second, Bordelon?
Moved by Melendez, second by Bordelon.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion,
Okay.
amendment, and that is to have an amendment to pass the Recreation Master Plan, but to remove the references on page 110 that talk about considering the SB Butler being a recreation center, and then any other references in this plan to SB Butler being a recreation center. There are there are 5 paragraphs that reference that on page 110 of the plan, page 136 of our packet. The 3rd, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 12th paragraphs reference that. I'd like to remove those paragraphs and any place else in this plan that it may be mentioned that we can't figure out.
Okay, so any reference of SB Butler as a recreation center?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
I've got a motion by Counselor Jones, a second by Counselor Franco to approve the Recreation Master Plan as presented, less any reference of SB Butler as a recreation center, primarily on page 110 of the master plan. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, we talked about this the last time when the plan was presented a couple weeks ago, and that we're not familiar with any discussions that are talking about SB Butler turning into a recreation center. And I think conversations with Mr. Berry, we didn't know where this even came from, so nobody seems to know. So we just like to take that out and just let whatever happens with SB Butler be determined at that time, but not be predetermined or even influenced by this plan. So. I'm fine with the rest of the paragraphs there. It's just taking out that recreation center. So.
Okay. Counselor McBride?
Yeah, I guess I'm just questioning why this change is coming about after all the work that's been done. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why is this in here? I mean, I don't know the plan details as well as everyone else does, but why is this in here, and why are we removing it? Do you know where this came from, and why is Counselor Jones removing it?
I believe it probably came from feedback from the public. You know, it was an idea that was thrown out there. I think the Barry Dunn, the consulting firm, was looking at potential opportunities that existed. The need or desire for a recreation center has clearly been identified, and I think they were looking at that as a potential site, given that it's a closed school.
So I guess my thought would be, after all the money that we spent developing this, all the reviews that you've done, all the community feedback, if this is the plan that everyone put together and was approved, why wouldn't we leave it as is? Why are we going to take this out? I don't know why. I'm not hearing enough reasoning why this should come out. So I can't support just pulling this out without all the work that you've done, all the work that the team's done, the planner. For some reason, the community spoke that this is in there. So I would support leaving it in there. I can't support pulling it out without having as much work done as you did to develop this, to have it removed. I can't see why we would do that. Just my thoughts, thanks.
Okay. Counselor Bordelon?
My question then is, are we ready to finalize this tonight? Is there any more things in here, anything else that, I mean, it's a big packet. It was given to us on a night when we had a full agenda. And, you know, as you reread through this, you find more things on there. So my concern is there anything else? Are we sure that we went through every item in here? Or are there more items on there that maybe the community wanted, but the Recreation Department maybe was not for or was against? Like I said, I think it's a well-written document, but I mean, I think it is important to make sure each and every part of it's vetted. So if someone recommended something, did it automatically just make it in here? Was it a large consensus? How many people wanted this as a you know, a rec area? Do we know that? That's my first question.
So are you saying that you've identified other issues in this document?
What I stated is, are we ready to move forward with this document in its entirety, or do we need to slow down and reread some of these pages to make sure we didn't identify any other areas that might be in here that maybe shouldn't be in here? My question is, how did that school, how many constituents wanted that? Because that's good to know. Was it a large majority? Because I would hate to pull it out, but I also, was it a small percent? Was it like 3% of the people? Do we have any figures to know what that number was to keep that as a rec? I wouldn't just want to carelessly pull things and put things out because we don't know how they got there or how many people agreed to those. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So that's my first question. Second question.
there are a number of questions in here that, you know, a very small percentage of people voted in favor of, and all of those are identified in here. If the suggestion is that we take out the responses that had, that were very low, then I think we need to, you know, we would need some direction on, okay, any responses that generated less than 15%, we're just going to disregard because it's such a small amount.
So basically, this document, it has everything in it,
Yeah,
and nothing as of yet has been pulled out of it.
that's correct, right.
Right, so I do think there needs to be a process where we do kind of go through it in a more defined manner, to go through, you know, several pages at a time. You know, when we saw this, it wasn't a working session. It was kind of like, here's a big packet. So
I'm happy to come back in 2 weeks after the council has had a full opportunity to look at everything.
I think the council has had the time, but looking at this in a Word document, it doesn't tell me what percent wanted a gold bridge, for example, if that was in here. Who wanted the footbridge? Not who, but was that an overwhelming majority? I mean, what items would
Actually,
enter?
it does tell you that.
Okay, so it does break it down. So
Yes.
we don't know how many people wanted the SP Butler part.
No, I do not know.
Right, so it's not all
Right.
of them, so we don't know. Because if it's an overwhelming majority, that would be great to know that the community really wants that. Because
Right.
I am for open space and preserving the neighborhood tapestries, you know, so it is important to have, you know, rec space within neighborhoods. It also helps for climate buffers and things like that, so it'd be great to know, like, how much of the community really wanted that.
Okay. Are there other questions that you would like to know what percentage of the community wanted?
That was the ask. I mean, if it's something, you know, it's, I don't know, I just think it's a pretty big document just to say, let's just push it all the way through in its entirety and pull out one singled out item, or, I don't know. I'm all for the Brookline Plains Master Plan. I love the skate park. I love all of the amenities, but the other little caveats, you know, you really need to be, it's not just the visual that we're voting on, it's all the other stuff. I'll wait to take my second turn. Thank you.
Just to mention, this had been flagged by Councilor Jones prior to the first time it was discussed, so I think there had been ample time to review and ask questions, and these questions would have been great when it came up at the last cow. And there's not room on the next cow agenda, by the way, in case you wanted to come back. So.
Yeah, that's correct. If we want to pass this, we got to do it now. This is not the first time the council is seeing this. Counselor Gajewski?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For full disclosure, I do live in the SB Butler neighborhood, and as Counselor Jones mentioned last time we discussed the master plan, that this was the first time that we had even discussed doing anything with the SB Butler school property. It was just in there. There was no information. As a neighbor, as a neighbor of that and member of that neighborhood, what is going to happen to SB Butler is of concern to me, but it was just the first time was in this master plan. However, if there is reservations of taking it out of the document, I have, my notes were on the original master plan, so I don't have the updated one, but it says there on my page, blue 40, which would probably be 41, 42, there's additional desired amenities. We could put SB Butler as a recreation center in there as a desired amenity, but not necessarily be a thing we do. And the reason I'm doing that is it says, as a desired amenity, synthetic turf fields. I know there's been a lot of discussion in the community about the environmental impact of those. So that is why it could be put in there if there was reservations about it. But I am not opposed to removing it entirely from the master plan.
I'm a supporter of removing it. If you watch the first TOP, the reason SB Butler is being treated a little differently there is just because we've never talked about it. Whereas there's been extensive discussions on others. Actually, the public's being invited to come to that next meeting to give input on that property. So I think it is premature to have it in the document.
Okay, I would just note briefly about whether taking in, putting in or out. It does say here, consider converting former school building into new recreation center, and the second bullet point does say, if converted to recreation center. So I don't think by passing it as is, you're making it into a recreation center. I just think that's in there as a consideration. That's just something to think about. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I also live near the SB Butler School grounds. So this was put in here. It was mentioned at the last meeting, and we've had probably, I don't know, 3 weeks now to be able to read this in its entirety and fully. It has been brought up, and can you explain to me when it says consider converting it into a recreation center? What is a recreation center?
Recreation center is different things to different people.
For example?
So it could be what we have right now at the community center. Recreation center could have a pool in it. I think that's what New London, they're calling it a rec center, which includes a pool. It could include a lot of different things, depending on what the community wanted to see there. And again, this is just a suggestion, a consideration. It's not, hard and fast, this is where it's got to be. But it's, their goal was to identify opportunities. This is a potential opportunity. They haven't identified if it's good or bad, but it is an opportunity because it is a vacant building. And, if, to be perfectly frank, if I had my choice, I would not recommend that we move into, I'm not sure how old that school is. Historically, Parks and Recreation has moved from one old building to another old building, and the idea of moving into another old building just is not.
Which is not centrally located as well.
Which isn't centrally located, right.
Correct.
So, we, as a department, did not sit down and pick and choose what suggestions we liked and what we didn't like. This was up to the consultants.
Okay, did the consultants also give you recommendations on Pleasant Valley and Groton Heights School?
No, they identified that there's a shortage of recreation space in the northwest area, but I would have to go back and look. But I don't think they made a recommendation for Pleasant Valley. They may have, but I'd have to go back and look at that.
I don't see one in here, because they say something about Gloucester, the community center.
Right.
Library.
Well, they recognize the fact that Gloucester, that the council has moved forward with the idea of building athletic fields in that space.
Correct. And so this plan is brought to us as a council, and if we would like to see any changes or amendments to it, that's why you bring it to us, right? And discuss it with us, make a presentation. And if there is something that we maybe pick out, that might be something.
Yeah, this does not lock us into having to do everything that's here. It's providing us guidance, the department and the town as we move forward, but it does not commit us to necessarily doing all of the things that they've identified in here.
That's correct. Historically, have you noticed that sometimes when a report or a study comes out, that community members may see something in a report and fixate on it and say, because it's in that report, that that's what we should do because it's in that report?
Yeah, I think some people will interpret that, depending on the argument that they're trying to make. But, yeah, it's simply a guideline. It does, by the council adopting this, it does show that we're committed to improving the quality of parks and recreation in the community by actually adopting it and saying, yes, we recognize this document. But again, it doesn't hold the town or the council, to the recommendations that are in here.
Okay, and after it was asked at the last meeting, was there any response from the person that, or the company that drafted this master plan for us? Was there any response regarding the questions that that Councilor Jones had brought up regarding this topic?
Yeah, so I think he had asked about acronyms that weren't clear, and we did add those. Those are on page, I flagged it right here.
No, I'm talking about the part about Butler. Did they specifically come back and state anything about their reasonings for putting that in there?
No.
Okay. Because I think in a master plan, if you're going to pick out one school when there's opportunities to discuss other properties that we have, that they should have probably given consideration to all the properties and notated what possibilities for all the properties are, and possibly what changes. And I think we came up with a plan on what to do with our town properties if we are going to change into something different. And I think we passed a policy that we should probably go through that. And I do have concerns that if this is left in here, people will say, it's in the plan, and that's what you should do. And that's what I have concerns, without any validation of why it's really in this master plan. There's no real background to why it's really here and who and why it is put in here. That's my concerns. Was it the gentleman or the company that wrote this just thought it? Was it the community members that thought it? And that's why I have concerns with this.
Right.
So
I'm sure that they were responding to feedback from the community. I mean, but I can't tell you, who in the town or the number of people that said, oh, we think SB Butler. I'm not sure that we can drill down that deeply.
Right.
But I can certainly check with them.
No, because I do talk to many people in the neighborhood about what they want, and they have a lot of concerns about SB Butler at this time, and I'm hearing a lot of feedback. So my time is up. Thank you.
Councilor Jacome?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I do see something here with Gloucester for another school. At least very brief compared to the one for SB Butler. But I do like the different, I know that was very interesting how it split up the difference between what I learned throughout the multiple sessions, which I do appreciate, which the Parks and Rec Department and the consultants did, where they had multiple public sessions, multiple opportunities. They had multiple focus groups and things like that. Plus the survey, I do think, specifically what the mayor said is considered, specific word is in there, consider converting. I think we need to consider all options, even if they're in Mystic or all of Groton. So I think that this is in here. I think that you said that the council could technically take this out if they wanted to in the future. Is that correct? Or if we wanted to make an edit? No.
Well, once it's
Well-
adopted, it's adopted. At that point,
Yeah.
you're not committed, is what he's saying.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that would be like saying something that was in the POCD. Oh, we don't like that, we're going to pluck it out.
Yeah.
Well, no, you've approved the POCD. This is the same type, it's not at the same level as a POCD. I mean, I think that's a state statute that's required to have a POCD. But, every time something comes up that somebody decides they didn't like, we really can't go back in and say, oh, well, I don't like an aquatics facility, so I think we ought to take all those responses out because I don't like it. Well,
No, I'm
Yeah.
in support of what's in the document,
Yeah.
where it says consider, because you're considering all options on the table and any prime location we might have. So I'll just say I'm not in favor of the amendment at this time. So thank you.
I'll note that Councilor Parker arrives at 7:34. Welcome. Councilor Westervelt?
Thank you very much. My question was answered. I'm still a little on the fence about this, but my question was answered, and it had to do with any changes to this after tonight. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up, we spent a lot of time putting together a policy for selling our old school buildings, and that is now in effect, and we have the TOP committee, and everything is kind of working forward with that. And that policy gives us maximum flexibility to kind of figure out what to do with these properties. And so the reason I think that that's where this should be, that if some point in the future they wanted to make a recreation center, that's the place that it would be done, would be through that TOP process and that policy, not predetermined already, even if it's a suggestion in this plan. So that's my reasoning for taking it out of here, is it just sort of predetermines that someone's made a choice for this, and it seems you don't really agree that it should be on this building either. I think, if I was right, the town manager didn't really agree that it should be on this building. So,
yeah, and this recommendation doesn't say use the existing facility.
right.
The point I was trying to make was moving into another 80-year-old building that the Board of Ed has said, well, it's not fit for kids, but it's fit for kids to come after school, and it wasn't designed to be a rec center. They're not saying that we should be using that old building. That's just a potential site.
Right. I mean, I'm not against the rec center being in this location. It could be anything in this location that the
Right.
community determines that's to be there. My question is, or my concern is it being in this document where we sort of predetermined, and I think those choices should be made in the appropriate TOP process or reuse process. That's where this decision should be made. It shouldn't be made here, it should be made there. And we've just, somehow it's slipped in here and no one caught it. So I'm just trying to take that out, so this document stays as free and open as it possibly can. I think you're a consultant, and you guys did a masterful job of putting together this plan, so I don't have any problem with the plan. I think it's just somehow we predetermined this particular structure, has this use for it, when in reality that decision should be made on the policy, the property reuse decision. That's the path for this kind of decision, not this. So I think you're probably agreeing with that too, or are you? Well, you're agreeing we shouldn't just make that building into a recreation building, so,
Right, and,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
again, it was just a consideration, something that's,
Right,
should be explored,
okay,
or could be explored.
all right, thank you.
Councilor McBride?
Yeah, I'll take my second term, but I just want to reiterate that I don't think this was a recommendation in terms of moving things forward, nor does it hold us bound in any way to do anything. This was a culmination of a master plan of feedback from the residents on all of their thoughts and desires and creations. Consultant did a wonderful job at putting all those together. There obviously was a lot of thoughts or recommendations if there's 3/4 of a page on something with S.P. Butler. I'm not saying I'm in favor of that, but I'm definitely not in favor of stripping it out of a document that was spent so much time on and involved so much community feedback that I think it should stay in the document. And I would never consider removing something that involved the community feedback. Thank you.
Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. So my understanding to the town manager, this is a plan. At any point, it's a guiding document. It doesn't mean we're going to do everything in here. We might never even have the funding. We might not even get past page 50, depending on who's running, who's sitting in the town manager seat, who's on the council seat. I mean, they could go a completely different direction. Not saying they should, but this is just a guiding document. I mean, everything that we do in life has a guiding document. You don't necessarily do all of it in there. So again, if this is community driven, and that's why I was asking, was this from the gentleman or the company that came in to do the kind of the behind the scenes investigation and figure out what was best for our time, the needs assessment, or was this directly from a constituent? Most documents that we have, we don't follow at all. It's just something, it's kind of like something to, an appendix or an index to refer to when we're visioning our plan moving forward. Nothing in here says we have to do any of it.
That's exactly
So
correct.
passing this is just passing these possible ideas with the intention of maybe utilizing these, which I
Right.
think there's some wonderful ideas in here.
Right.
So I too feel compelled to not strip anything out. Do I agree that SB Butler should be this? I don't know what it should be. Maybe it's going to be a park with benches and a pond, like a little like sitting area. I don't know. I'm not saying the infrastructure, but the suggestion here says we're using the building as aquatic, but it doesn't mean we're going to do that. And I just want to make sure legally that this is not a binding obligation document that we're going to do every item in this brochure.
Purely guidance,
Right,
yes.
okay,
Or-
so, and then I do feel comfortable with leaving whatever's in there because it's community driven, so in 30 years from now, if someone reads this, I don't know, maybe the direction of the town changes at that time and someone might like that opinion, I don't know. But if we take that one out, then someone would say, why don't you take page 4 out, and 5, and 6? And that's why I was asking.
Right.
Obviously, I've read through this document many times, but my concern is if you're bringing forward a recommendation in a bundle, should we be stripping it down if it's just pure recommendation and not going to be something that we actually uphold and follow 100%? So I'm fine with passing it as written, and obviously the council will be working with the town manager and Groton Parks and Rec as we move forward
Right.
with allocating some of these ideas to move forward. So
Right.
I would recommend to the council to leave it. I do agree that we have a new proper use committee and TOP committee. Some would say that process is not completely nailed down or filed out completely either, compared to what people really wanted. That was stripped down, and that took
Point of
out
order.
voices. So
Point
that
of
stripped
order.
down of
What's
that
your point of
document.
order?
Discussion of TOP committee while we are discussing a Parks and Rec master plan, which is not a motion on the floor.
That's correct. Keep your comments to the recreation plan only. Thank
Yeah.
you.
As Councilor Jones had stated and brought up the TOP committee and the proper use process, that's what I'm stating, that in reference to SP Butler. I'm
I
just
understand,
okay,
but
thank you.
he brought it up, but he did not state an opinion that it wasn't as good as it should have been or in any way.
Well,
Referencing the TOP committee is one thing. Discussing the merits of it, pro or against, is not what is on our agenda.
It
Thank
doesn't
you.
state that no opinion.
I've
Point
made
of
my
order.
ruling. Thank you. I've
Point of
made my
order.
Thank you.
ruling. Thank you.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
It is also in Robert's Rules of Order that after a decision is made, you do not speak negatively of such a decision during the council unless it is on the agenda.
That is true. You have the option to approve the ruling of the chair if you wish to do so. You have the
Sure.
floor.
Thank you. So as it was stated that we do have a TOP process for buildings and what have you, I think it's appropriate to make sure that things will be vetted, hopefully, and I'm fine with the document as it's written. Thank you.
Council Westervelt, you want to respond?
I was just going to say that I will follow up with it. The consultant was supposed to be on this call tonight. He was flying from Denver to someplace. And so unfortunately, he can't provide the detail of the information about this particular item, but I will follow up with him and get back to the council with the information that you've requested.
Council Westervelt?
Thank you very much. I just want to state that I think the document is fine the way it is. I don't believe we should take anything out of it, so I won't support the amended motion. I think we should go with the document as written. I think you guys put a lot of work into it, and I appreciate all your effort. Thank you.
Okay, just very quickly.
Sure.
Thank you. After hearing Counselor speak, how much did we spend on this study?
It was 80,000.
$80,000. I think that's a lot of money. So if we're going to have a study to give us advice on what to do in the future, and it is being suggested, which I take exception with, that it's just a study that we don't have to do any of it, I sort of think, why do we spend the $80,000 then? Why do we vote to spend $80,000 on a study that we're not going to bother doing anything with? I take exception to the comment that was made. So if you're going to give us guidance on what should be done in here, I would think that you, with all the maintenance and all the things that are notated in here, that as the director of that department, you're going to try and pursue many of these. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, this will be the guiding document for the department for the next 5 to 8 years.
Right, and that's
Yes.
how, when I read it, that's exactly what I thought. This is going to
Right.
help guide you for the foreseeable future until probably majority of this is taken care of and worked on. So as a council, if there's something in here that we think might be imposing to something in our community, that it's up to us to right now to deal with it at this council meeting and to correct it if it's going to be taken care of in a different way. I think that notating one town property about what should go there when there's other multiple properties within the town and not notate what should be done with those properties is an issue for me. And that's why I can agree that maybe it should be taken out, because historically I have seen people come and say, you've had a study done, and why aren't you listening to the study? But they're saying, but it's up to the council to correct something in there if they see an issue. And that's why it comes to us, and that's why we approve it, and that's why we have conversations about it. So I just think that if there was there discussion on SB Butler as well as other town properties such as Groton Heights as well as Pleasant Valley, were they all treated equally? That's what I'm trying to ask.
I would have to go back and look at the survey results and the feedback from the public sessions to see if somebody said, well, what about Groton Heights, or what about, someplace else? I don't believe that the consulting group randomly picked SB Butler and said, oh, let's just make this recommendation for that. I'm sure that it was based on feedback that they got from the community. I don't know how many people said that.
Could it potentially have been one person?
It seems like I would be surprised if it was in there, if it was from one person.
Did anybody say the same thing about Pleasant Valley?
I can't answer that question right now. I don't know. I don't have all the open responses to the survey. There was a section in the survey that people could just, write whatever they wanted to write. I don't have that in front of me. I haven't gone through to see if, SB Butler came up in a few suggestions from during the open-ended questions on the survey.
Okay. Because I would like to have open sessions where the community comes and talks about SB Butler specifically with their thoughts of that land, and tell, the community what they want, and tell the council, and tell, Parks and Rec and everybody else in the town what they want there. And I do also feel like if it's in here, it will sway people, and it will be something that they will go back to and say, you created that study, you passed it, And that's the goal. And like you said, this is something that you will be using as a guiding force, and people will be going to this all the time.
Well, so I should clarify, this is what the department will be using, but that doesn't, not everything in this is achievable, and not everything is, and I said this earlier, I think the idea of putting something in an 80-year-old building just doesn't make sense to me. So it's not something that I intend to pursue. You know, I know what it's like being in the building that we're in now, and to move that someplace else makes no sense to me. But, like I said, you know, the department staff didn't go through and say, oh, we don't like that suggestion, oh, we don't like that, oh, can you add this one, because that's, you know, this is not the department's guide. This is what the town has said they wanted, and we're using the recommendations that came from the town as our guide. This is not something that we created and said, well, this is how we're going to operate for the next 5 to 8 years.
Understood,
Yeah.
but again, there's no data to support it,
I don't have the data in front of me.
right? And I apologize for hammering on it a little bit, but,
You don't have to.
and it was asked at the last, you know, meeting when we had this, and there's still no answer to it. And and nobody understands why it's in there. And that's the answer we got. And I think to put it in there and to leave it in there creates a lot more problems in the future. And so, but if the amended motion doesn't pass, I will actually vote in favor of it as a full. So thank you very much for all you do, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful document that will guide you, and I think there's so many good things in there. So I think it was money well spent. and
Counselor's time has
I
expired.
look
Thank
forward
you.
to what you do with it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
could you please tell me what the motions are on the floor? Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. So the first motion is to recommend a resolution that the town council adopt the 2023 Recreation Master Plan. So that is what you have in your packet. Counselor Jones has an amended motion to pass it as presented with removal of any reference to SB Butler being converted into a recreation center, primarily on page 110 of your master plan. You'll see on the right there, there's a few paragraphs mentioning that.
Can I make a point of clarification?
Let me see real quick. You can ask a clarifying question.
Yeah, I just wanted to, or I guess it's a question. There's only 3 bullet points referencing a recreation center. The rest of all of them have nothing to do with the recreation center. I just want to make sure she was aware of that.
Right, so only those, anything referencing converting it to it will be pulled out, the rest will stay the same.
No, he wanted to pull it all, right?
No, it's here and here and here and here.
Yeah, yeah. It's just pulling, it's just,
pulling the
Pulling the SB Butler School Grounds information.
no, only the bullets that reference converting it into a rec center.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, you can have the floor if you want.
Thank you. My follow-up question is, does this have to be decided tonight? Because it sounds like we still have questions about this study. If I'm hearing everybody correctly, there are still questions about this study that we did not get follow-up answers to. So is there a reason, can we postpone it or not? So is there a sense of urgency?
To be honest, if this council wants to pass this document, it's more than likely gonna have to be tonight. We just don't have the room, probably.
That's not the question. Is there a sense of urgency? Is there a specific reason why we're passing everything tonight? Unless Mr. Berry's going to be able to give us all the information we need, not within the next hour, but if we pass it and don't receive all the information, and we can't rescind it for 6 to 12, 6 months, or get the 6 people to rescind it, or wait a year to make a change. So is there a sense of urgency?
Well, I don't believe there is, but I'll let him, I had something to add, though.
No, this will not affect any grant funding. It just delays the process of initiating this document. I would like to, if the council is not going to pass this evening, I'd like to know from the council what other concerns they have so that I don't come back next time and somebody says, oh, I saw something on page such and such that I really don't like. And can you give me more information about that? I mean, this could just be, this could continue on and on. So if it's the 3 bullet points about SB Butler, I will get as much information as I can about that and come back to whoever is sitting in front of me in November or December or whenever.
Could I ask for a point of clarification, please?
Councilor Parker,
Oh, I apologize.
are you yielding the
So,
floor?
who was that asked the question? Claire, what's it?
He doesn't have the floor at the moment, you do.
Okay, so I'm okay, I'll give the floor up in a moment. I'm okay with the plan, but I do hear everyone's concerns. So it's not like we have to do that, because we still have to take it to a vote to the people if we're gonna make changes, especially if it's gonna be a dollar amount to do things. And SB Butler, I can see the concern about locking us into something, but you're also going to start implementing some of the things. So it's either a guiding thing that we're going to do, because it still has to go through an approval process for anything we do anyways. So we can always turn it down later, or whoever the next council is later. At that point, I'm okay with the rest of the plan. I'm good with this. And thanks to both Mr. Berry and the consultant for doing everything. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to mention, I don't think this is worthy of postponing. We can get the answer for the resolution tonight. It's one small piece of a large document, and you can always alter the resolution at that time if you wanted.
Councilor
Mark, I assume you can get the information before the 6th?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Councilor Westfeld, do you have a clarifying question?
I do. My understanding from when we met a few weeks ago was that this document would aid us in getting grants. So I do understand that it's not going to stop us from going after grants, but my understanding was that this would help and make our case stronger, basically, to go get grants. Is that?
That
am
is
I
correct,
right?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a turn here. So this has been a long process, putting this together. Spent a lot of money, a lot of work by the staff, a lot of input by the community. I think it would be a real shame to throw into the universe the possibility that this doesn't get passed. This 220-page document not getting passed, because of a few bullet points. I don't think that, quite frankly, the excuse that, well, how do we know what the rest of it is in here? Councilors need to be prepared. This is not the first time this has come before us. This has been a long process. I know it's in here. I know many of the councilors here know it's in here. You should be able to decide whether or not is in here is acceptable. And I welcome changes. I think this is the time for changes. So the fact that people are putting changes up, I think is a good thing. It means they're prepared, they read the document, and they want to change it the way they see fit. But to use the fact that some people have issues with a couple of paragraphs on a page to say, well, how do we know the rest of it is what we want? Well, because you should have read it, that's how. And to really postpone this, we don't have the time, quite frankly, to put this on a future cow. We don't know how the next council is going to see this. So if you want this to be passed, by and large, you agree with 99.8% of this document, I ask you that you pass it today, because this is the time to do it. If you want to throw it up into the possibility that it doesn't get passed, that's fine. I know there's a lot of councilors here who are supportive of a lot of things in here, and all it's going to do is delay the process. That's all that's going to do. It does say consider, right? The first word is to consider doing this. I will also say on the page just before, there's Claude Chester right there. It's listed as well. It's another a school. So just please,
Made those decisions.
we agree with basically everything in there. We can make a couple changes. That's great. That's fantastic. I'm not against making any changes. I am against postponing this vote, however. Is there any further discussion? Okay. I'm not seeing any further discussion, so we will vote first on Counselor Jones's amended motion on removing any reference of turning SB Bertler into a recreation center, primarily on page 110. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions?
One.
Okay, so I have 3 in favor, Gajewski, Franco, Jones, 5 opposed, 1 abstaining, Parker. The motion fails. We move to the main motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining.
Take a break.
Sure. Council will stand in recess at 8:03. Council's back from recess at 8:17. And we are on to the Sutton Park renovation investment. Director Barry.
Yes, good evening. Still Mark Berry, still Director of Parks and Recreation. We have been making plans to renovate Sutton Park for a couple of years now. I don't need to remind the council that historically, this park has been disinvested. As we were moving forward to come up with the plans, we did a considerable amount of public engagement. I think it kicked off a year ago, March, when Chad, and I'm sorry, this is Chad Kent from Kent and Frost. Chad Frost from Kent and Frost. Phew. I got your first name right, that's, yeah. We had, well, I think the council remembers, there was a group of skaters that came 2 years ago to the council and said, hey, look, we would really like to see some improvements made to the skate park. The council heard that request, and money was appropriated for renovations to Sutton Park. We started shortly after the budget was approved on public outreach to get input from the public to hear what they wanted in the park. And that included, site visits down at the skate park. There was probably 30 or so skateboarders that showed up. That it also included other public meetings. Our community outreach coordinator from the department would frequently go down and, talk to the skaters. He'd go across the street and talk to the people using the park, the playground at Pequannock Plains. We put up a project tile on Greater Groton, and we also took the information that we had heard in the public needs assessment. So when we put all of that information together, the total cost to build out this park was $4 million. We immediately recognized the fact that we were short a considerable amount of money, so we started value engineering. That's a fancy term started making cuts to the project, or looking at phasing the project. And I did want to, John, if you could share a couple of slides. So the first slide was, I think, what you all have seen with the build-out of the park. We went back and started making cuts, and I know you've all seen this, it was in your packet. So the second slide should show all the areas that we have. So all those areas in red are cuts that we've already made. That came to $1.4 million. So we've cut out the 3 or 4 parts of the skate park. We've cut out the basketball court, cut out a portion of not the multi-use path, but another section that would have run between the two, cut out all the amenities associated with the basketball court. We had planned on repaving the entire parking lot. We're now looking at just doing curb cutting in those areas that need to be reconfigured. So we've looked at how we can save money. Currently, the budget to build what you see not in red is $2.5 million. We have just under $1 million. So there's a difference of $1.5 million. The referral that I submitted, there's different options. we can continue to cut, you know, and like I said, I gave a couple of different options. None of these are what I would like to see, but I also recognize that, you know, we're working within a certain budget, and looking for council guidance on what if they feel at all additional funding is appropriate for this project. And you know, one of the challenges that we faced over the last couple of years, and we actually had this discussion earlier tonight, is, you know, just the rapid escalating cost of construction. There's no HVAC involved in this project, but, you know, there's materials and supplies and labor costs have gone up considerably. So we're certainly open to whatever questions the council may have.
Okay, I'll just put the motion on the floor first. I'll make a motion to recommend a resolution approving additional funding for Sutton Park renovations. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Gajewski. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Berry, and thank you, Chad. I think I speak for all of us that we were really excited about this project. It's pretty amazing, and the process that you have gone through to get here is also, I think, you know, really taking community input and trying to come up with the best plan. So I want to just, so by taking out everything that's in red, you were able to push the budget down to 2.5 million.
That's correct.
That's correct. Do you have any thought of, and I'm focusing specifically on the skate park area, which is sort of what got this project, I think, started quite a while ago, that those areas would be added in at a later time?
That is the idea.
That's the
Yeah,
idea.
That's an option.
That's an option.
Those other areas come to just under $1 million.
So if I look at the left and the right of the skate park, that's an extra $1 million
Correct.
to put those in?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
902,000.
So I know we had some drainage issues in the upper right. Is what you have proposing here fix those drainage issues, or is that part of the additional?
That would be an additional.
Right.
That's the additional.
Yeah. So just to clarify that, the drainage works, right? It goes to the drain. It's just a haphazardly constructed area to let the water get there. It's not the greatest for skating. People tend to avoid that area because of how it's constructed. So the plan is to fix it. It was just the way that we had to get down to a budget. It was to fix the front entry, put in all the street features that we did hear quite a bit of need from the public, and to make that street experience right along the edge of the park for the public to experience as well. So focused on that front edge, and then let the stuff to the back be a future phase.
So from what I'm hearing from you, if we put those two pieces back, it would be a 3.5 million project, not counting basketball courts and parking lots and all that other stuff.
Correct.
Can you just, my concern is, and I just want to, and I guess I'll go to your expertise, is part of the problems with that park had been different concrete put in at different times, and there's seams and things. By not doing this all at once, do we sort of risk having that same thing happen again, that we have older concrete, newer concrete, and not having smooth paths?
So I'll say yes and no. There is, the skate park's been built in many different forms over the years. Originally, it was asphalt. And so there's about 3 parts of the park that are still that original asphalt. The rest, as it's been built, is concrete, and it is pretty seamless. And even when stuff is built years apart, they can blend it up pretty good. The current proposal in front of you, we resolve one of those asphalt areas and replace it all. It's right at that front gate, right as you come through the entrance in. All that asphalt gets removed, and all new concrete is put in. But there's the back, I'll say the back left and back right areas that are also asphalt would remain as asphalt until we can come up with future funding. And I should just point out too, it was part of the discussion we had with the skate group when we were out there and with the public throughout the whole process, is that we're coming up with that master plan. We've tried to prepare for the fact that this could be phased because it seemed to be growing beyond what the scope of the budget was. So we have been trying to prepare for that.
Mr. Berry, could you just go through, I know we have some alternatives in here. Could you just run through 1, 2, and 3, just sort of explain?
Sure.
What the difference is in each of, just kind of give us an overview of those?
Right. So when we presented this to the council, I think October 2nd, maybe, one of the things that we heard was, one of the concerns was the safety surface. We were proposing engineered hardwood, which are wood chips, which we use in most of our parks. At Quantic Plains Park, we have poured in place, and at the park at Depot Road, we also have poured in place. What we were hearing was, to be fully accessible, the council thought that, or suggested that we look at poured in place. And so we've put that into this $2.5 million budget. So the first, and I can tell you the price difference. Engineered hardwood is $13,500. Poured in place is $129,000. Considerably more expensive. But we put it in there. So if we were to go with alternative 2, one of the things that we would be looking at would be removing the fully inclusive playground surfacing and going back to wood chips, or the engineered hardwood. It would also include, potentially, removing any public art, not putting up a new park sign. We would use the park sign that we have. It would probably be relocated, and taking out most of the site furnishings. So those are benches.
Yep,
What else is-
benches, tables. picnic
Benches, tables.
the
Now,
grills.
these were all things that we heard the community wanted more amenities in their parks. They wanted a place to sit. And so we've put that in the base. If we can't come up with the funding mechanism to get us to that 2.5, then these are things that we're looking at taking out. Yeah. And then alternative 3, a lower number, we would be looking at removing the shade structures, the skate park lighting. You know, that was one of the things that the skaters said that they wanted. Removing the planting of all shade trees. I don't want to say removing all shade trees because we're not taking out all the trees in the park. And also going from switching the parking lot system to solar powered versus, hardwired electrical. One of the things that we were hearing as the public wanted increased safety. So providing more lighting meets that need of more safety. So those are, what we're potentially looking at.
So
having
each
to
of
make
these
cuts.
options includes whatever was above it also?
Yes,
So
yes,
number 3
exactly.
includes taking out public art and playground
Yes,
services. So it's just
exactly.
each one kind of peels off
Keeps
the next
cutting.
stuff.
Right,
Okay.
yeah,
And
it's
that,
cumulative.
and that gets you, so that gets you down to the 2.5, or that gives you just a total of a million? Is that?
Well,
It-
we have 946.
Okay, so then like
So
this.
with that, gets us
Basically
to
2 million.
gets us
Got
essentially
it,
to
okay.
about 2
So like if
million.
we just, did number 3, you'd be adding $1 million, so it'd be $2 million. If you add number 2, it'd be 2.3, and you add number 1, it's 2.5. Okay.
Yes.
And if we went to complete the left and the right of that, it's another $1 million on
That's correct.
top of that.
That's
which is
correct. Right.
Basically 3.5.
That's correct.
To do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we then added basketball courts and paved parking lots, we're up to the
4.7.
We're up to the 4 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Just to be clear, because I didn't really make it clear in my motion, I moved for the first number, 1,575,136. Council Franco?
Thank you. So can we go over some of the costs? Because we don't have it laid out for us what the cost is on everything. So I just received the information that on both right and left sides of the skate park is an additional 1 million.
That's correct.
So how much does the playground, how much is that costing us? The playground, that whole area right there?
I think it was like 238. Oh, is it?
In rough numbers, 340,000.
And the basketball courts
That was 250.
each?
Well, we have one there now. So an additional court would be 250, and that includes lighting.
But
And
250,
a shade structure. And there was also a suggestion that we have player benches. So that
Yep,
whole thing
all that
came
is
to
in there.
250.
Yep.
Yeah,
for one, just one though, right?
Correct.
that's correct.
So it'd be about 500 times 2?
It'd be-
No, there's one basketball court there now.
Right.
We would be adding one more, and it would be $250,000.
Are you, so you're not redoing the basketball court?
No,
No, we're adding one.
Just
We're not
adding one,
redoing-
not redoing the
Which is
other
That's
already
one?
been
correct.
removed, yeah.
correct.
Okay. So if, so that adds up to 590, because my thing is, this all started, at least with us as a council, the way I felt about it, was that the room was full of skaters. They came to us and they asked us to fix the skate park. That's what this all started. And then the additional things came after, you know, from my vantage point of watching this play out. Am I incorrect?
The money that was approved in FYE '22 included renovations to the skate park and replacement of the playground, landscaping changes. Right now, the sight lines in that park are not great, and we were looking to improve those sight lines by changing some of the vegetation. The proposal, the berm is still there, but it's not as big, and it's changing where there's some screening, but it's not a complete screen where you can't see through. So those were, and making changes to the parking lot. So those were the 4 items that were included in the approval, and I think it was the FYE '22 budget. And that came to $1,050,000.
Okay. But didn't this skaters come to us, and that's sort of like what kicked off the first funding for the skate park, for Sutton Park?
Yes, the skaters came to the council. What the council approved was renovations to the skate park, renovations to the parking lot, replacement of the playground, and changes to the landscaping.
Okay, so is the playground there aging out? Is it
Yeah,
not
we've
a
had to
certified?
weld pieces, we've had to take sections off because they cracked and we couldn't find replacement parts. I think that playground was put in 1996 or 97, which is way beyond what a typical playground would be replaced.
And for the money that has been allocated, it's not even close to what you're proposing at all. Is that, so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right now, at a base, we're 1.5 million short.
right, and then the skate park that is not in the red, how much is that? How much does that cost?
Roughly $1 million I'll look to find out. I
can't
think it's pretty close. Let's see here. Oh, no, $500,000. About $500,000 worth of skate park in the base bid right now, or base project.
Is there any possibility to do like the whole skate park at one time, then do the playground at one time? Or are you saying it's better to piecemeal it this way?
There are an infinite number of options. My concern, to be perfectly blunt, is the money that gets spent now, for the next 10 years, we'll hear, we just gave you so much, and nothing, that playground will go from 26 years old to 36 years old before any money ever becomes available again to make those changes. If I felt comfortable that we would see a regular commitment to the investments in that park, I'd be great. But historically, I haven't seen.
Because I see the phases, and I do worry about, like, the skate park being done in phases, and then maybe the basketball court's not being completed, and the parking lot. I mean, there's issues here that I see, and, but if we could do it, like, here's one whole section being done, and then maybe in the future do another section. Mr. Burt, because you have a very good grasp on CIPs, what do you foresee as our CIPs looking in the near future?
Well, I haven't seen the list for the upcoming, probably about the typical. I don't think there'll be anything outstanding, but do I think we could fit in a playground? Yes, but that is one of those ones that tend to get cut later in the process.
I agree. But I also see where you're going to have a contractor come in and do part of the skate park, and then have them come back in a couple of years to do the other part. And I'm thinking to myself, it might be more cost beneficial to have them do the whole thing at once.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
Because if you have them come back years apart,
Well,
just having them show back up again is going
Right.
to, is money on the table.
Materials and supplies aren't going down, labor isn't going down. So, what this base that we're looking now at 2.5 in 3 to 4 years is another,
10%,
yeah,
15%.
right.
To give you an idea of where the escalation did come from, about 4 years ago, concrete was going for about $5 a square foot. Right now, we're seeing a low bid of $15 a square foot. Most bids are around $20 a square foot. So it's not just a slight increase or a 10 or 20% increase, it's several 100% increase on concrete alone.
So my thought is the skate park at $1.5 million versus a playground at $340,000. I'm thinking the skate park is going to increase in value much larger than a $340,000 playground. And that's why I'm saying maybe we do the bigger, affordable, more expensive first.
Just to add in, at some point, I think the intent is to do a bond issue for doing some of the other Parks and Rec things, like at Cloudchester. These other phases, if it didn't get through CIP regular process, it could also be included in the bond.
Councilor Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few questions. I'm looking at the background, So $1,050,000 was approved in FYE '22.
Yes.
You just got ARPA funds for $850,000. Is that correct? This is separate times, right?
That's just background information. That's not actually available for this project. Those are totally separate projects. And then the $1,050,000 is down to $946 just because of architectural engineering costs.
I think.
So,
But not yet. My other thing is, we also got a community connectivity grant to help with some stuff. And we have some capital reserve and state bond funds, correct? Are we not using this to help us with the Sutton Park?
they're already tied up with those other projects. Those are separate projects.
So-
Those aren't available at all for these costs.
My point is, this shouldn't have been added into the thing if that money is already being used for something else. So why is it in here saying that we have this?
Well, it's just saying that it's a whole background on what all is going on there. That's what it was intended for. I think it just wasn't as clear as it could have been.
Because if somebody else looked at this and added all this money up, it looked like we already have the money. Just, I understand we spent down to that part, but I thought the major point was for us to get the skate park done and at least the playground done. And I know we designed extra, but can we just do the skate park and the playground right now? Because that's not an option. If you'd start taking away stuff, and lighting's important because nobody's going to be able to see to play down there.
So we're
So
back to 4 million-ish, right?
Right.
that's 4 million with everything, because you're saying 4 million to include the whole entire thing. My question is the skate park and the playground. So we need 4 million to do both of those with
So-
lighting.
Are you talking
I'm not
all of the
looking at this.
sections of the
I-
skate park, or what you're seeing here that's not red?
Basically everything but a tennis court and the paving, and a couple little structures like the shade structure, that kind of little stuff.
Basketball court.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about the basketball court right now. That's,
Tennis court.
tennis court, sorry.
oh.
Or basketball, yeah,
Basketball.
yeah.
What's
Okay,
the
so your
cost
question
for
is-
the skate park in total, as well as the playground, without the shading of the trees? But I want to see what it's going to cost us for utilities to have lighting down there.
Well, if you took out, so the basketball court is roughly 260,000.
I'm not worried about the basketball.
I'm
court.
trying to
Yeah.
He's working
give you what,
backwards.
yeah, I'm working backwards, right? So if you start at that 4.7 number,
See, that's the thing, we don't have that information in front of us, so we don't know what you're talking about. All I have right here is a glimpse of,
is just the referral numbers.
correct. So we don't see what you guys have.
I will try to work backwards in for you. So it's, right now, the entire master plan is that 4.7 number. If we were to back out the basketball court, that's, say, 250, so that's down to 4.5. Minus another 300,000, which is covered elsewhere.
For what?
There's the 300,000, which is referenced as the multi-use path, is funded and is part of the project, but we would take it out of that 4.7 number, so that's down to the 4.2. Remove fitness stations and grills, that's another 100,000, so 4.1.
It's basically 200, it's basically 2 million. It's the million for the park, 500,000 for the extra, and 340,000 for the playground.
Yeah, I'm just
Like,
trying to make
that's
sure we
basically
don't
it.
have anything double counted.
1.8.
John, can you project this perhaps?
I don't have.
No,
If he
doesn't have-
emails it, maybe? And if he emails it, you can send it up.
I think that's the total.
Could you email it to John so we can put it up on the
It's
screen?
1 point,
I don't have it physically on me right now to be able to, I mean, I have a paper copy, we could make copies, but I don't have
it's 1.8 million.
1.8.
That's what I,
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
have.
and you have 900,000, so it's 900,000 extra.
Well, right now, our 900 above the 1.5? Is that what you're,
No. The middle part of the skate park is 1 million. The extras left and right, is a 500,000. The left and right is 1 million, so that's 1.5 million. The playground is 300,000, so that's 1.8 million. Yeah, that's 1.8 million.
Just a middle.
You have $1 million in hand, basically, so it's $900,000 is the extra amount needed to do that.
I'll say in very crude numbers, right? There's things like site demolition and preparation, the construction, fencing, and demolition of stuff like that, that right now is around $80,000. And
So
there's
it's 2 million.
earthwork of 36,000, and there's, that's where, I guess what we could do is if that's what you're really interested in, we could get that, we could work to that budget, get you that number, and get it back to you.
Yeah, I think you should wait till you get exact.
If that's the
numbers.
directive you
Yeah.
want.
So 328 wouldn't include
Okay.
any of the sidewalks?
No, that's the problem, yeah.
Okay.
Like all the sidewalks along the curbing and stuff that are in other
Yeah,
numbers.
okay. So, yeah, the number is going to be larger because the 1.8 doesn't include any sidewalks. So now we've got nowhere, there's no connectivity. So you've got the playground in the middle of a field with no sidewalks to get to it.
Yeah, there's
So,
earthwork associated with
yeah,
it, the
so-
lighting, the power, there's a bunch of other stuff, for lack of a better term.
So it sounds like direction is to focus on that area, include, I would point out what is that, like some of these other things that, sidewalks, other stuff, just they have that all broken down.
Yeah.
But then take out anything that's not in that, involved in that.
So there'd be no change to the vegetation. The sight lines would continue to be poor
From the road?
from the road.
Okay,
The-
well,
Wait a minute.
The
Hold on.
way they are.
Hold
one
on,
second,
hold
just
on.
one
I'm not even done. Everybody's been jumping in, so I'm the one doing questions right now. So we're going, where's the line of sight issue? Tell me where that is on that map right now.
Sure. Oh, not on this map, because we're
Which map is
addressing
it? Where is it on this road? Is it coming, when they leave Sutton
If you're standing on the corner
of,
of
The driveway coming.
the driveway coming in, you can't see what's taking place in the park. You have no idea what's going on, because there's a berm, and there's 60-foot trees, and it's completely full of vegetation. You can't see what's going on in that park.
There's an existing berm that runs along here and up through here, basically to there. That berm is in the neighborhood of 5 feet tall soil-wise. It's got rhododendrons and other evergreen shrubs and a whole lot of weeds in it. That's another 5 or 6 feet high. And then it's got, as Mark mentioned, the white pine trees that grow up to about 50, 60 feet tall on top of that. So there's no, you have a tiny glimpse here. You basically see what might be happening on the basketball court. And then from there, there's no view into the park until you're about here, because there's a lot of trees here and some trees here and walls that block your view. So that was a sight line.
if we add stuff back in, which is going to go back up to the 2 million and change. So you want also the line of sight. So I want to see different options, because as it is, we don't have 4.7 million. We're not going to have $5 million offhand. And I'm not sure, I don't want to bond yet. But then again, there's an election, so we don't know what's going to happen. But I thought we were trying to avoid bonding, so we wouldn't be putting so much on us, because we're still in the middle of paying stuff off right now. I just want to see different options that we can. If you're saying that there's a major slide of sight of issue, I'll wait for my second turn.
And what would probably, if the council wanted to use the funds I mentioned and not dip into general fund balance, then you have around 2.2 million we could raise. So on top of that 940, right? or sorry, not 1.2 million more. So 2.2 million total project cost is right around what could be done without dipping the fund balance of the general fund. Could you get another 100,000 out of capital projects? Maybe, you know, if it was close, you know. But
So
that's-
right now, the base, what we were calling the base here was 2.5. So you're saying we need
but
to
they
get
want
down
to
to,
focusing on that circle, yeah,
yeah.
oval.
Okay, so we've heard from 3 counselors only, so I'm not sure that that's going to be
Yeah.
the direction going forward, but I will say, there's a lot of money. I already have 3 counselors who are potentially looking at other options, so if we're not going to move what we have presented in front of us, it's probably best if we just wait and get more information so that we can make an informed decision, whether that be on the next council or
And
whenever
I'd like
it
to sit in
is.
a meeting with you and I can, you know, help you come up with what we're looking for.
Okay, very good. So I have Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. For me, I think I need to see the numbers. I'd love to see the sheet that you have. I don't think it's, for me personally, I only speak as one counselor, to isolate one area at this time. I think it's better to look at the broad scope and have the numbers and like kind of look at it as a whole. I do think there's a bit of community outreach that could possibly happen as well. I know other towns will reach out to large companies in their community, and sometimes they donate, like Waterford will get Dominion that will be like, oh, you know, the park, they reach out and say, we're going to be building something, and sometimes they throw some money to kind of give back to the community. Maybe we can do that. I mean, I'm not sure. That's not wrapped into here. I'm not sure if we can do that under the way our charter or what our rules are, but that's another recommendation I think we should do. Have we reached out to Pfizer? Have we reached out to Dominion? Have we reached out to Electric Boat? Have we applied for any grants through the military? Because we are a strong military community that, you know, thrives on this. This is a great project, in my opinion, for ARPA funds, right? We identified that it could be used for this. It also can be used down the road for opioid and other addiction funds. Once we hit it directly with folks, one of the things that opioid funds in other towns I'm noticing is prevention. Having strong parks and recreation and other outlets instead of drug use and just hanging out in the streets, going skating, hanging out, doing the right thing, being with friends, having a place of community. Those monies can be used for something like that as a form of prevention. That is in its scope. So my question, I guess, is I'd love to see all these numbers, and have we tried to fundraise? Is my first question.
Well, we would need direction on exactly what you want in order to fund. Pfizer, they do small grants, but you're talking, you know, once a year, like 20,000-ish or something like that. Electric Boat is not known for doing things other than unless it's directly tied and there's connections to get like the Groton sale type of thing. So there's not a lot of options out there. I don't think you fundraise much. Could you come up with a little bit? Maybe, but you'd have to have a detailed plan. But that would be probably working towards a phase 2. You know, you could try to do some applying for things for a later phase, but that's probably not going to come into play for the base.
Yeah. So that's my first thing, is it's always great to ask, you don't know. And then moving forward, you know, this is one of the things I had brought up about when we looked for development. You know, we gave money, right, for like when SIF came in, we gave them an initiative. And then sometimes you can set things into these RFPs and development agreements where you can say, you know what, if you're able to, give back, and it can go into our parks and rec and restoration of these types of things. So this is other opportunities that we should be looking as we bring in high developers, seeing if they're willing to give back, especially if their apartment complexes do not have space for kids to roam and play safely. They're willing to sometimes give back to a local park. So it's just something to think down the road. But in the meantime, for me, I think having all the information and the numbers before me, before breaking apart the pieces would be helpful. But my question is also the seawall for the city. Do we know yet if any of that money is coming back yet?
No, I think it's either gone out to bid or about to go out, but it's probably at least 2 months before we hear anything.
And the possibility of refund for that is how much?
Well, we have 1.4 set aside. I don't think we'll get it all back, but, you know, I'm hopeful we'll get a good chunk back.
And as far as ARPA dollars go, where do we stand on that?
Well, as discussed recently, that we have no more, and the only possibility would be, we still don't know if Groton Housing Association is going to use their, really actually needs their in the high 600,000s, and then you have the wall. But we just have to wait for the city on that. And Paige Bronk has been reaching out to Housing Authority to see, because they've been doing some other bonding and other projects, and they've not given us anything on what they might use that money for. Because if you remember, they'd asked for, I think, a couple million for infrastructure, but they've gone out and bonded now, so we're trying to get an answer. Do you really need a little bit less than 700,000 or not?
And what's the percent of opioid funds for the following year that we didn't allocate that we could possibly see?
I think it's 25%.
So that 25%, we don't know the number, but there's a chance.
No, it's
we-
Canada. Yeah, that's how much.
I'm
We
sorry.
have so many of those things now.
No,
Yeah.
we'll
I was
be
thinking
for
cannabis.
3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So no percent of that's left over.
And those are, what's that?
No-
Yeah, I
no
don't think,
percent.
yeah, nothing right now, no.
So, I mean, these are great ways to reallocate the stuff in, that I think we should be kind of looking down. But I don't want to call the project off or segregate one area as of yet. I just want to see more numbers. And I also think putting a post out there saying, hey, this is what it's going to cost, and say that we're looking for any community support or people who want to sponsor. Just throw it in the newspaper article. I mean, if you get 20,000, it's 20,000. At least brings back part of the basketball court. It's a thought. So I'd say the community doesn't know that we need the money, so let's put it out there.
Thank you. Councilor Chacon?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would agree with most councilors here that I'd just like to see the different numbers based. For me, I would be thinking just maybe the park itself, the skate park itself, not including the playground, then including the playground, more accurate numbers for that. Did, by chance, we talk with that, I believe we had, at all the meetings, the liaison for the skateboard community. What is the gentleman's name? Have you?
Jeff?
Jeff.
Jeff,
Was,
Pop Rocky?
Yep.
was he informed of like the decision here? Because I would feel like
Yep.
he was?
He-
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
great. And then, for example, the vegetation, is there a number for how much the vegetation would cost itself?
The demolition of the vegetation?
Yes.
In rough numbers, around 30,000, I think. Then there's demolition of the soil and other things like that that get added into it. But just the trees alone is about 30.
And I'm assuming there's, I mean, in my head, I'm just trying to think, even if we were to do the entire the skate park, somehow fund it, if we could level the land enough where we can kind of prepare it for the playground, would that be possible? I'm just shooting ideas.
Well, what
here.
we're hoping to do is take the berm that exists that's blocking the view into the park and move that over to the edge between the skate park and the playscape, right? Because we were building that naturalized playscape into a hillside, and we were taking the soil from one side and moving it to the other side. So that's one of those things like where money gets spent and you don't get to see a shiny new thing. And if we try to break it into phases that don't necessarily align, it gets difficult because we're either paying to have the soil hauled away somewhere and then paying for it later to be brought back. So that was why when Mark and I went through all the numbers to try to get to the value engineered 2.5 number, was to try to give you as much as we could of the amenities that were asked by the public kind of spread out throughout the park. And I'm happy to give you the full document. It just gets very into the weeds, and we end up seeing a lot of times where councils say, well, you know, I could buy concrete cheaper than this, and you start nitpicking line items or saying, I want this piece and not this piece without necessarily understanding the full context, so.
Yeah, I can say that for me, I think the skate park's the most important. We had those individuals come out, they advocated for that. Lighting is something we need to include. I mean, that's just a public safety thing, I think, in my perspective. So that's where I stand at that. I would support the phasing, but I just, like you said, the concern is kicking it down the road and it kind of constantly getting chopped during CIP in budget season. So I think just seeing a few rough estimates and numbers and different things we could take out, but my focus would primarily be on the skate park itself and maybe holding off on the park. That's where I stand right now. Thank you.
Okay, so now I have a majority of councilors sort of wishing to come back.
Yeah, and I'll include me in meetings on that.
Right.
So just to make sure we're clear, we're looking at the skate park. I guess that's complete construction of the skate park. Skate park and playground, and lighting, and,
And showing the information you had for pieces for everything from tonight.
okay.
So the whole thing, just the skate park and anything you need to really, if there's
The infrastructure.
landscaping, other stuff you
Yeah.
think is really needed, you know, and then with the skate, with the playground added. Is that,
That's a good summary of what I've heard so far. I don't know if there's any other counselors that wish to speak on what they'd like to see. Counselor McBride?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with what all the counselors are talking about, but can we get to the 4 million number? I mean, I'd like to see the 4 million number broken down by the 7 or 10 categories, and then this counselor or the future counselor can decide what to do based upon your recommendations on merging things together, whatever, but it'd be nice to have a, you know, high-level summary of all the various aspects of that to the 4 million. And that's one, and then the other question I had to Town Manager Byrd is, I'm trying to get back to that 1.2 million. I thought, I may have miswrote some things down, that you had said the 2.2 is available now in the capital fund?
well, and 135 from the LoSiP. Total available between the 135 and LoSiP and the 2159500 for the capital projects brings it to a total of 2,294,500.
Okay,
And
so
if-
high level, I think I just want to make sure my numbers, because I must be missing something. Because I have 400 that we did earlier tonight,
Right, 200.
40-something that we did earlier, so call it 176 or
Well,
something.
that's already counted out, is that 40,500 when I give that total. 2,294,500 already takes that 40,500 out. So you can discount that.
So 2.2 minus 4 gets us to 1.8?
So 2,294, and then you take out 1.1 million, being 400,000 for Calvin Burrows in Part 4, 200,000 max for police locker room, 500,000 fund balance. That's 1.1 million. So you're taking the 2,294,500 and reducing it by 1.1 million.
And the 1 million was the 400?
And then
the
they've already got
police-
940,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
available.
drawing round
Yeah.
numbers, so police 700, which gets you to 1.1.
No, the police were 200, the 500 was for
Fund
the
balance.
Fund balance backup.
Yeah.
That equals 700.
I guess, I'm trying to get 2.2.
Okay,
Plus
you-
the one for the
Well, yeah,
LoSiP.
so right now, reducing the 2.2 by the 40,500, that leaves you 2,159,500.
Okay, got it.
You have 135,000 in LoSiP dollars, so add those two together,
2.3,
2,294,500.
okay.
And then reducing, and then for things planned or already approved, you've got 400,000 from tonight's CIPs, 200,000 just kind of putting it on hold for police locker room, and then 500 for fund balance. That's 1.1 million. So all you're doing is taking, you have 2,294,500 available, you're reducing it by 1.1 million.
I got it, so that's your one, thank you.
Yeah.
I just, I didn't.
And then could we take another 100,000 out of, you know, possibly?
I wasn't,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't working, I got it, thank you.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Counselor Gieske?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, there was a lot of numbers being thrown around, so it's 1.2 million roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And then, I agree with most of, pretty much what other councilors have said. Personally, doing the skate park in bits and pieces, I would want to check with the skaters to make sure that was okay with them before we decided to do that. And then I also, in agreement with doing the skate park and playground first with the councilors. And with that, yield back.
Thank you. Counselor Franco?
Thank you. So my question is about the berm. Is there any possibility that the town could help with that? Because Mr. Hanover is very suave when it comes to these type of things, of helping to take care of things that,
Well, if the trees are removed, we could maybe, I would think maybe could move the berm, but possibly. But
Yeah.
the trees would need to be contracted anyways, so.
okay.
So I did meet with Gary before,
Craig?
Greg, sorry. Greg. Yes, and we looked, because there were some things that we have now included in our cost estimate that originally in that first $1 million number, Public Works was going to be doing like $1 million in repaving the road. And as we looked at how the project has progressed and how it's gotten larger and how it'll have to go out to public bid, to have Public Works trying to mill and repave a road in the middle of a larger construction project and make the timing and the sequencing work, didn't make it worth probably the somewhat savings. And so, yes, there's things that Public Works can probably do. However, how it integrates into the overall project gets to be very difficult and might not save money in the long run. So we've talked to them and can continue to have those conversations. It's just difficult when it's in a project with this much complexity around it.
Right, I was just thinking maybe he could move a berm and transplant the dirt from one location to another. Might
There again,
be savings.
yes, it sounds great,
Okay.
but the reality is we'll have some structures built on top of that soil, and if that soil settles and the concrete cracks, and then we try to get the contractor that put in the concrete to be responsible for it, they might turn back and say it's the town's fault, so.
Understood. And usually when, from what I understand, Mr. Burke, correct me if I'm wrong, usually when communities have people pay for like a park or something like that, it's usually when you get into a public-private partnership with somebody and then they're giving back to the community. Is that correct?
I mean, anybody can donate, we have the Parks and Rec donation fund, it's just, you don't get this kind of money typically.
Right. But there's times where there's a park created though, but it's usually sometimes when it's a public-private project going on, and you can ask them to please get back to the community as part of a deal, let's just say. Is that correct?
Yeah, usually beyond property, for instance, at Pleasant Valley, there's every intent if we did anything that we'd want to have some level of parks and or open space or playground. So that's going to be, they'd be doing it on site. Could you ask for something on Groton Heights, but you're taking, you're like, if you get offered $1 million for a building, you can always say, okay, we're going to take 200,000 of it and put it away for future parks, and you can always do whatever you want. So.
Okay, just curious. I also would like to see the numbers and request those as well. And I would like to make a motion to postpone this topic.
That won't be necessary. I'm going to rescind my motion.
I'll rescind my second.
Okay.
We'll just come back as quick as we can.
When will we have it come back?
Right now, we're pretty full on the 14th. I could take a better look see if there's any way of pushing anything off, but there's 2 cows left. So, and we have a couple of big items for the last one, so like the wage study likely then, so we probably don't want to put anything else on that one. So I'll see what I can do.
So it probably won't be this council.
Well, I'll try. Let me take a good look at it. If it could even be done by the 14th, yeah. So I'll see what I can do to see if there's stuff that can be pushed off to the other stuff to the next council.
Good. Okay. Council Bordelon?
Thank you. Yeah, and for me, it would just be helpful, I know because like when you're breaking apart those numbers, if you start looking at the sidewalk and like little things, like you said, like soil removal, if the skate park is kind of broken up into like the whole park and then the separate pieces, and then the walk path with maybe the playground, but also the basketball court, and everything kind of, just in kind of maybe a section of sorts to kind of, because I know, like you said, reading line by line, this person's moving soil and the trees, it can get kind of hard to understand, but it would be helpful. And what I was saying is, I've seen towns where people have donated and said, we have this family money and we're going to give 10,000. It's something. It would take care of the part of the burn. It would help, maybe towards the draining. The other question I had is, have we talked to the state to see if there's any funding for the draining issue? That might be something that we should look to see if there's any grants or anything for that. Kind of talking maybe with, economic development and stuff like that. We don't know, right? I mean, it's worth it. And is there any grants we should be looking forward? Is there any grants coming in the new years for parks that maybe we should be tapping into now? I did review the state website. I did see some things. I'm not an expert on grants or grant writing, but there are some things out there currently as we speak. So as we're allocating, we should also be thinking to see if we should be applying in the meantime. I am aware that if we do allocate this and we do win a grant or get allocated a grant, we could always offset and put the money back. But I do think advertising this in a way that says, here's our big goal, here's the big number, here's the park, here's some phasing, and really saying, to our community outreach people, there are people that, maybe GOSA would say, hey, we're gonna help with here's 30,000 from us to help, because we're gonna plant some native trees. We don't know, we haven't asked. So that's all I'm saying. And then moving forward and looking at big picture projection, we should start to, as we sell or come into some partnerships or redevelop buildings or whatever, we can start to ask and say, we'd like a % of that to automatically go to maintaining our parks. As a way, and that is something, maybe I should send a referral for. But that is how other towns don't have to wait, like you said, 36 years for one park to sit. Where is our base? Where are we generating money to redo these? Because as we look at Pequannock Plains Park, it's already starting to need updates. So we have to be forward thinking. So we're looking at 4.2 million, but meanwhile, other parks are needing thousands of dollars in infrastructure repairs as we speak. So this is just getting me thinking of how do we create a way to maintain our parks and recreation. When businesses come in, we can start and change the pattern of asking and saying, or we can say as a council that we are going to start to allocate a certain % into this and roll it right into our parks and things like that. So that would be my hope.
That really rolls into Councilor McBride's grant administrator referral.
Yeah, well, that's great. But it also can be a rule that the council chooses to do.
And I should mention, a couple of the councilors came to me because I think it was Representative Conley had said there might be some potential dollars out there from the state bond funds. So we did ask for some money for this. So I think it was, how much?
Yeah,
500?
it was about $500,000 we asked for a state bond, all for Sutton Park.
So just some outreach advertising saying we're looking at ways to fund this park and just put it out there to the community. Let's see what they say.
All right. You got what you need?
I think so.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to the Fiorillo Data Center lawsuit update. I hereby move that the members of the Town Council Committee of the Whole, Town Manager John Burt, Attorney Thomas Gararde, and Attorney Robert Taylor go into executive session pursuant to General Statutes, Section 1-206B, for the purpose of discussing strategy and negotiations related to pending litigation and/or pending claims concerning a lawsuit filed by Nicholas Fiorillo. So moved.
Second, Jacome.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries 8 in favor, 1 opposed, Westervelt, 0 abstaining. We are in executive session at
Are
9:15.
you going to talk to anything before we go in? No, nothing? Okay.
Or anything.
That's great.
I was just curious.
Recording in progress.
Council's back from executive session at 9:57.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Jones?
Motion to adjourn by Counselor Parker, second by Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We are adjourned unanimously at 9:57.
I
I saw